Okay, Genesis chapter 13, we're going to look at a contrast between Abram and Lot. So we're introduced to Lot as the nephew of Abram. He has some major fault lines in his life, and we're going to see those right away. As they journey back from Egypt, the famine in the land, Abram's failure, they're leaving Egypt, heading back into what we would call the land of Canaan, the promised land. They're coming through the Negev desert in the south. They were coming their way all the way up to kind of the northern region past the Sea of Galilee in that area. You might even kind of contemplate that as a future region where Jesus is going to be traveling by foot. But Abram and Lot settle really close together, and all of their herdsmen begin to bicker and argue and fight over whichever wells or whichever grazing land. And they both are very wealthy men. They have a lot of livestock. They have a lot of helpers, a lot of herdsmen around them. We were told later that Abram has 300 men of his household who are employed by him. It says there in verse 2 that Abram is very wealthy in gold, silver, and livestock. And Lot's right there beside him. So Abram realizes what's going on. He's like, hey, time out. Let's get together. Let's figure this out. So he asks Lot, he's like, Lot, if you go to the left, I'll go to the right. You go to the right, I'll go to the left. I don't care. You pick a spot, and I'll take my crew, and we'll go further away so that we can all live at peace. So Abram wants to be a peacemaker, which is good. And he allows Lot the option. Now, a key verse is verse 10. Lot lifted his eyes, and he saw that the plain of the Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, and it was good for raising livestock, like the Garden of Eden. So Lot chose for himself the plain of Jordan, and he journeyed east, and they separated from each other there. Now, one lifelong lesson from this is on the one hand, it's exactly what happened with Eve, where she looked and she saw that it was good to eat, but she didn't consider the repercussions. Lot is looking for what's best for his bottom line, but the plains of the Jordan is not ideal for raising a family. He'll read that in chapter 19, I think it is, as we get there. But in this scenario, Sodom and Gomorrah have already been mentioned in the table of nations. This is now where we're beginning to see the effect of the big city or the city dwelling has some disastrous effects on human nature. And Sodom becomes the poster child for those disastrous effects. And Lot doesn't yet see that end. He just sees the plains as, oh, I can raise sheep and cattle there real well. So Lot chooses to settle in the plain of the Jordan, and Abram goes up into the hills a little bit further away. So we kind of have this quick snapshot. In verse 18, then Abram moved his tent and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. We don't see Lot building an altar. We do see Abram building an altar, though. So a very distinct contrast between the two. Two families, two ways of approaching it, two ways of looking at it. And Abram becomes the example to follow. Set up an altar wherever you land. And don't look with eyes only. Look with the eyes of faith. Don't look by sight. Don't live by sight. Don't walk by sight. Walk by faith. We'll get into chapter 14 next.